Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason Lee, and joining me is Chris Vaz, but we all just call him Vaz. And today is our first ever episode of the Fantasy Football Freaks podcast. We're going to go over the top 24 rookies that are going to be eligible for the 2024 season. Vaz, this is going to be our first time going over this. I can't wait to do this. How do you feel?
Good. I'm excited too. It's busy right now with the combine and such, so I've had to update the rankings, but it's a lot of fun and I'm excited to do the podcast with you.
Football never sleeps. So, like you mentioned, there's always something going year round, especially when it comes to Dynasty. And so important in Dynasty is, of course, the rookie rankings. As you mentioned, we just had the combines completed. Some people participated, some people didn't. And based on that, we're going to go over these rankings. I'm going to tell people right now, just so you know, I'm more of like the broadcast expert. Okay. I love fantasy football. I play it. I'm good enough at it. But let me tell you that Vaz is our in-house expert. He's the one that wins every league that I'm in. So he's the guy that I'm going to lean on for information and analysis on what's going on. So Vaz, we've got your list of top
Yep.
24 eligible rookies for the upcoming season. Let's break it down from number one. Who is your top rookie?
Okay, well, let's just start with thanks for the introduction, by the way. A hell of an introduction. And I'm not that great at fantasy. I'm strictly dynasty. Dynasty's where my
You're
heart's
too
at.
humble. You're too
Yeah.
humble.
Okay, if we're just discussing the top end of the draft, for me, there's two guys, right? A lot of people say it's just Caleb, but for me, it's Caleb and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think they're 1A, 1B, and especially for 12 team, you can go either way. If you have a need at quarterback, then by all means draft Caleb. He's the best prospect we've seen since probably Andrew Luck, right?
Mhm.
But if you're good at QB, then you can be like satisfied, not even satisfied. You can be thrilled to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. because like the guy's a stud, right? Probably, like I said about Caleb being the best prospect since Andrew Luck. Marvin Harrison's probably the best receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
he's got this is like an epic year to be at either one or two in fantasy drafts, in rookie drafts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
certainly we've had some good prospects along the way. When Lawrence came out, they were saying that he was the best
Yep.
quarterback since Andrew Luck. So you're saying that we can expect something even better than Lawrence, essentially, or basically, I guess, more in hindsight of what Lawrence has become.
Not. I mean, yeah. Like I don't. When Lawrence came out, he was looking like the next great thing, right? And he hasn't really like stepped up to the plate yet. But yeah, in my opinion, from just like the prospect profile, then Caleb's even stronger than Trevor Lawrence.
Okay, so pop quiz. You have an opportunity. Someone offers you the 1-1 to draft
Yep.
Caleb Williams. You have Lawrence. Are you giving up Lawrence to get Williams?
I am. I am. I mean, for sure. I'm not a
Wow.
big Lawrence fan as it is,
Yeah.
so yeah, without question. I think like Lawrence is definitely underwhelmed. He's had that one massive playoff game where he threw 4 touchdowns, but I mean, he didn't even start that game off well, and he hasn't looked good last year. So yeah, like I'm moving on from Lawrence if I can grab Caleb without question. Yeah,
All right. Well, as you
I'd pay
mentioned,
him.
our top two players,
Yep.
Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr., the only guys that we're going to put in our S tier of super prospects. Let's take a look at our A plus tier. You've
Yep.
got two names that you've included in the second tier. A
Yep.
plus, who you got?
All right. Well, I think most people have the QBs here, or at least one QB here. But if we're drafting for a 12-team league, I'm staying away at this point. And the reason is kind of twofold. Okay, first of all, I'm not a huge fan. Okay, I see like the bust potential in these QBs, and the receivers that I have here, I think are locks to be like elite receivers. They are looking like for sure like top 10 picks, maybe even top 5 picks. Like that is elite draft capital. And when I watch their tape, they look fantastic.
When you
So
say top 10 picks, top five picks, are you talking the NFL draft or are you
yeah,
talking
correct.
about a
Yeah.
startup? like start of
No, 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 no,
dynasty?
no. In the NFL draft,
Okay, yeah,
and and the NFL draft will change these rankings, right?
yeah.
This is fun to do before the NFL draft, but after the NFL draft, everything needs to be thrown out and needs to be like done again. But like you and I have a draft together that drafts before the NFL draft, so this is like for us a very important exercise, right?
Okay, well, let's take a look at the individuals that you're talking about that are
Yep,
in your A plus tier. Let's start
yep,
with your number three overall prospect in Malik Neighbors.
yeah. Malik Neighbors. So for me, he's an excellent route runner, great speed. He's almost on par with Marvin Harrison. That's how good he is. Yeah, fantastic numbers in college. Like he's a great. He's looking like probably going top 5, top 6 in the NFL draft. So and then the next guy, Roma Dunze, who I also really love. I've seen him go number 9 to Chicago even earlier in some mocks. I haven't seen him go past 10. And then I think even Daniel Jeremiah had him ranked as his like number 3 overall prospect. So like he's getting a lot of draft love from the experts. And then oh yeah, his tape is fantastic. Like my comp for him, his upside would be Devontae Adams. He's big, he's strong, he runs crisp routes, he's got great hand. They both have great hands. They both are fast as hell. So yeah, I love these two receivers.
Yeah, honestly, after looking at the highlight reel of both of them, I've got to agree. Both of them look like absolute beasts. And how far apart? Like you've got them in the same tier. You do have
Yeah.
Neighbors higher. Is it a flip floppable? Take your pick, or is Neighbors definitely ahead?
You know what? So before the combine, I had Neighbors in a tier above. Okay. And then he didn't participate.
Yeah,
And I try not to overreact too much to the combine, right? But like Rome looked amazing. I mean,
yeah.
he looked the part. And then I kind of just like went back to the tape and I saw like this guy's elite too. And both are gonna smash, I think. So it's personal preference, but I do have Neighbors slightly above. So if I have the third overall pick, I'm taking Neighbors pre
Okay, let's
NFL
take a
draft.
look at the
But
next tier.
landing spot will definitely because they're in the same tier. Landing spot will definitely could elevate Rome over Malik Neighbors.
Okay, yeah, excellent advice at the end. Let's take a look at the next tier. A tier, you've got three names here:
Yeah,
Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers, and Drake May. Let's talk about these three no wide receivers in this tier.
yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Well, starting with Jaden Daniels at 5. I I think most people have Drake May as a second overall quarterback. But and I'm not a QB whisperer or anything. When I watch a tape, like I've gotten like, I thought like, I mean, I thought Zach Wilson sucked, so I got that right. But like, I thought Fields was going to be amazing, and he's still like everything's up in the air with him, right? So
But he is better than Wilson.
I think, oh, for sure. But I think like with QBs, like even the NFL franchises get it horribly wrong all the time. So like I'm not gonna sit here pretend I know what I'm doing, but I
Yeah.
do see that like these QBs do have the potential to bust. So if I'm in this position in a rookie draft, I'm a bit scared to take one of these QBs. But if I have a need, eventually you got to swing for the fences, right?
Mhm.
And Jaden Daniels has that rushing upside. He's looked good on tape, and he's going to get the high draft capital, which means he's going to get many years opportunity. Even if he struggles, like for example Bryce Young did, he's going to get a second, a third, a fourth opportunity to keep starting, right? So, and then if he hits, he's going to be worth like the moon, right? So he's definitely worth the risk here at 5. And if you need a QB at 3 or 4, then he's probably worth the risk at 3 or 4 as well. I do prefer Jaden Daniels to Drake May. When I watch Drake May's tape, I do see more bust potential. He misses throws and he doesn't have the rushing upside that Daniels has. Even though he is athletic, he doesn't have that rushing upside that you really want in the elite QBs.
Yeah, Daniels really reminds me of sort of like a poor man's Lamar Jackson. Just his
Right.
explosiveness when he does take off is so good, and his
Yeah.
passing abilities is fine as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree totally. Yeah. Yeah. His scrambling is elite. Like it's so good. I mean, no one's Lamar, but yeah, he's great. Yeah. I agree. Lamar Jackson light for sure. Then Brock Bowers sandwich in between them, like an elite tight end prospect. So if you're in a tight end premium league, you can elevate him above these QBs, even into the neighbors and Rome tier, right?
Yeah.
He's a fantastic prospect.
All right. Bowers is kind of like the, the class of tight ends in this year, but we've had a lot of really good tight ends in the past
Last year.
couple of years. So
Yeah.
once again, let's say you have the opportunity to draft Bowers, or you can trade to get, some of these great ones, Pitts, as an example, or losing his name right now in Detroit. Um,
Laporta.
yeah,
Yeah, Laporta, I think is right now in Dynasty that like kind of the tight end one. I
yeah.
mean, I'm a huge TJ Hawkinson fan. I think he's undervalued right now. Uh, but that injury is really bad, right? And you don't know how he's going to respond coming back from that injury. So for me, yeah, Laporta is the unquestioned tight end one right now in Dynasty above Bowers. And
Are you
I think
taking
most
Bowers ahead
people,
of Pitts?
oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
without
because
question.
Pitts was
Pitts is
all highlight reel coming out of college. He really hasn't shown it, but he hasn't had a quarterback yet. I mean, I kind of wonder what happens if they get like a Kirk Cousins in Atlanta or something like that. Who
yeah,
knows, how his game changes. But certainly he has shown that based on his situation, he hasn't been able to overcome that, which I guess with Bowers, it'll, there is that mystery of, well, he hasn't shown that he can't do it without a quarterback.
yeah. Bowers is going to get the similar kind of draft capital that Pitts got. I mean, probably not as high as Pitts went, but Pitts has had 3 years to showcase his ability, and he hasn't done that. Right? He's looked like, and he's going to be. I think even if they do get a Kirk Cousins, he's going to probably be the third option in the passing game. Right? They've got Bijan, and they've got uh what's his name, London.
Drake,
So
Drake London.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
The,
Let,
and then that's if they get Kirk Cousins, right? If they get Justin Fields, suddenly they've got a QB that throws for 200 yards in a game if you're lucky. So yeah, I'm
so
taking Bowers over Pitts without question. I think Bowers probably steps into like for me the tight end probably three instantly just behind uh Laporta, Hawkinson, and probably ahead of even Kincaid. So yeah, I'm pretty high on Bowers. Yeah.
wow. Well, his highlights certainly do look good. Let's take a look at the next tier. Just two names. Your next two wide receivers in Brian Thompson Jr. and Troy Franklin.
Yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. and Troy Franklin. Yeah, I had like a few days ago, I had Troy Franklin a spot above Brian Thomas Jr. But after the combine, I switched them. Like BTJ killed, he crushed, and I thought a lot of the people coming out saying Troy Franklin looked horrible in the combine was a little bit uh like too much. I thought he looked okay. I didn't think he looked as bad as everyone said, but it was concerning that he didn't. It looked like he didn't prepare for the gauntlet drill, the combine. He was weaving everywhere, and then like it makes me question like, does this guy have the work ethic? If he's not preparing for the combine drills, does he have the work ethic to be in the NFL? And then another thing is he weighed in at 176 pounds at almost 6'3", 6'2", 6'3". That is light. Like in today's NFL, I think it doesn't matter as much as it used to. You can be a light receiver. Tank Dell's like 165 pounds. But um, that being said, for a guy that big, he's very, very light. So I did move Brian Thomas Jr. ahead of him, but I really like them both. I'm not try not to, overreact too much to the combine because I do love Troy Franklin. Like his route running looks so good on tape. They've both got great hands, but Brian Thomas Jr. he can win with ways other than just route running. Like Troy Franklin has good routes, but Brian Thomas Jr. is strong. He's fast. So yeah, I like them both a lot. And also, I'm almost positive that Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be drafted ahead of Troy Franklin in the NFL draft. It looks like he's going to get maybe top 15, top 20 draft capital, whereas they're looking at Troy Franklin around the end of the first round. So for that reason, I did bump Brian Thomas Jr. ahead of Troy Franklin on my rankings, but still same tier. If I'm in the 8-9 position in a draft, I'm looking to get up to 7 because I think there's a pretty big tier break there, from 7 to 8.
Mhm.
But if I'm at 8 or 9, I'm also very happy to grab one of these two guys. I think they are fantastic receivers. So yeah, if I'm at like 11, 12, and I can't get up to 7, I think a lot of people in the top 7 do not want to leave. But if I'm at the back end of the first round and I can get up into 8 and 9, I'm thrilled to do so. I'm looking to get up to 8 or 9 to grab one of these guys. Yeah.
Okay. And speaking of tiers, you've only got one guy in your next tier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
a drop off here. Let's talk about Adonai Mitchell from Texas.
Yeah, there is a drop off, but I do really like him. And it's a bit surprising to have a one guy in his own tier, right? But the reason I do it is because I think he is a tier above the next group. I really like Adonai Mitchell. So when I watched his tape, I saw like crisp routes, like good, not perfect routes, but he can run good routes. He's got strong hands. He's big guy, he's fast. He can do everything. He reminded me of like a Rashee Rice that can stretch the field a little bit more. So yeah, I really liked him. So yeah, I
Certainly,
moved him.
his Texas teammate Worthy got a lot of the headlines from the draft
Yeah,
combines
yeah.
with his 40 time, but in the actual games, I mean, Mitchell really did seem to be more the feature guy as opposed to
Mhm.
the deep threat that Worthy was.
Yeah, we'll talk about Worthy later. I'm probably down more down on him than most. But yeah, like I think when we're talking about this tier, I think it speaks to the tier above it as well because I really like those two above because I like AD Mitchell a lot, right? So I just want to like emphasize how much I do like BTJ and Troy Franklin, right?
Good,
Yeah.
good. Okay, let's talk about our B tier. Three names in here. Jonathan Brooks, our first running back. Trey Benson, our second running back. And then another quarterback in JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. Okay. So I think if you need a running back, then you can start like targeting them around this range, right? Pick 11, even maybe pick 10 if you are in desperate need. Okay. I think that these two running backs like have kind of set themselves away from the others. Okay. Jonathan Brooks, for me, he looked the best on tape. He's like a very patient runner, can find the holes, and then he can like break out of the holes quickly, right? When I watched
Trey Benson?
Benson,
Mhm.
yeah, when I watched Benson, I didn't see the same like elite speed that I saw from the other guy, right? But he ran like a 4.3940, so he's got it. So then I had to move him up, and I put them right beside each other. So yeah, I think people are a little bit undervaluing these two running backs. I think they could get back end round two capital, and then they'll be very very like sought after pieces, right? Those young running backs on their first contracts, they like balloon up startup rankings, right? So
The draft experts seem to be putting both of these running backs maybe like in the third round. I mean, they're saying that they're
yeah,
going to go later. So, in terms of the draft capital of what teams are going to be spending on them, I mean, do you think there's going to be a chance that either of these guys are going to be the guy for their team, whoever does draft them, or do you kind of see them as more of like a off pace
right.
guy that comes in and maybe has to like settle for minimal carries in their first season?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's one that's almost impossible to answer right now, I think, without the draft capital, without the landing spot,
Yeah.
right? I think for running backs, that is so important. And I have, Brooks ahead of Benson now, but you know, Benson could shoot up, he could plummet based on landing spot, based on draft capital. If they do go in the third round, then I am a little bit more worried that they won't be featured backs instantly, right? Or at least like the 1A back in a backfield. Like in today's NFL, no, like hardly anybody's a featured back, right? So I'm not too worried about that. If they're drafted in round two, I know they're going to eventually get the majority of snaps, unless you're the Zach Charbonnet and you have a stud in front of you, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, like but let's say they get drafted in round two to a great landing spot, like I don't know, the Cowboys, like that's the spot everybody wants, right?
Mhm.
Then like you can probably move them up to the same tier as Troy Franklin and Brian Thomas Jr. because that landing spot is so elite. But then if they fall to the back end of round three, then they're probably getting pushed out of round one of start of rookie drafts because especially if it's to an iffy landing spot with a crowded backfield or something like that. So yeah, for running backs, like draft capital, draft landing spot, it's everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do like these guys. I think they have like Benson has the capability of being a three down running back, right? He can catch passes and he's got the power. He showcased his speed at the combine. He can break long runs. So yeah, and then And then I like Brooks even more. He's got the patience, he's got the agility, the quickness. Like it reminds me a little bit of like um uh who did I think it was? Look, Cook,
Mm,
James Cook.
yeah.
Reminding me a little bit of James Cook or like a poor man's like Alvin Kamara maybe.
Mm.
Yeah, he's a good running back. Yeah, I liked him a lot.
Yeah, but clearly with these running back of all the guys that you're ranking here and that you're evaluating, these two guys are probably going to be the hardest to evaluate in where to draft them if you are drafting before the NFL draft, because like you mentioned, their stock could go, at least 5 or 6 picks higher perhaps, but it could drop a few picks lower depending on where they end up.
Yeah, right. And I think it's even more so about the next guy that we're going to talk about, JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, because, right now, I'm not a huge JJ McCarthy fan, but you can't ignore the buzz he's getting about, potentially top 15 draft capital. And if that happens, he probably moves ahead of these running backs, right? Into the tier above or even the two tiers above. But then if he, falls like Levis did to the like round two, he's probably got to move into like middle round two of rookie drafts, right? So landing spot draft capital is so important for him as well.
Okay, let's talk about our next tier. Another quarterback here in Michael Penix Jr., but he is in a separate tier. Keon Coleman at 15. You've got also Xavier Worthy, Bo Nix, Xavier Leggett, and Lad McConkey.
McConkey,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Okay, so Penix was at the top of the tier, correct?
yeah.
Yeah. So actually, when I watched the tape, I really liked Penix. He's got that NFL arm, big arm, can make all the throws. So like when you see the upside of a quarterback, this is the guy like I want because I see that NFL arm, I see the upside there, right? So when I was looking at the three quarterbacks in like the second tier, like McCarthy, Penix, and Nix, Penix was my favorite. He just seems the part of an NFL quarterback. Um, that being said, most experts have him ranked as the third in out of the three, right? When he's getting he's expected to get like the worst draft capital of the three. So, but just out of personal preference, I like him even more than McCarthy. So I did stick him here in the top of this tier, and I will probably get a lot of him because I am a fan.
Let's talk
And
about
then
your
yeah,
next guy, wide receiver 7, Keon Coleman.
okay, yeah, Keon Coleman is probably a guy we'll not get a lot of, and that's because um, I think a lot of people have him a little bit higher than this, although he is moving down. I think he is trending down. He had a really slow 40 time at the combine, I think 4.61.
Mhm.
And when you watch his tape, he doesn't separate. He's like strictly a perimeter player. And like if you think of like George Pickens or something like that. Okay, he's like strictly a perimeter player, but he doesn't create a lot of separation. And I'm not even positive that he wins at the catch point as well as he doesn't win at the catch point as well as Pickens does. So like I if I'm playing, especially in a PPR, I'm just staying away from him. I think he's like he's got like the ability to win in the red zone. So if you're maybe in like a league that doesn't award any points for receptions, then you can target this guy a little bit earlier. But PPR, even like half PPR, I'm probably staying away. Yeah.
Okay. What about Xavier Worthy, who we mentioned earlier?
I think I'm the lowest on Xavier Worthy out of anybody I've talked to. You know what? Like when I watched his, okay, he just first of all he blazed the combine,
Yeah,
fastest time ever recorded, right? 4.21.
421.
He's a speedster, and but it didn't. I didn't. It didn't lose on me that he decided to not participate in any of the on-field workout after the underwear Olympics. He just quit, right? Didn't catch any balls. He didn't run any routes. So yeah, I'm not surprised about that because when I watched his tape, it's littered with drops. He is horrible, not horrible, but he doesn't have good hands. I don't see him as a complete wide receiver. He runs some good routes, but at Texas they use him predominantly like behind the line of scrimmage. They just like create plays from like bubble screens and like quick routes just off the line of scrimmage. So he will get that use in the NFL, I think, but I don't know. I see him more as like a gadgety player, and I don't want that early in drafts. Okay, yeah, if you can get him in this range, sure, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he smashes. He's fast. NFL teams love speed, right? So he's going to get that high draft capital. So I expect after the NFL draft, he will rise, probably even in my rankings, because he will get that high draft capital. NFL teams love speed, but I see him kind of as a gadgety guy, and I'm worried like I think his high end comp would be like Jameson Williams for me.
All right, let's talk about Bo Nix, your sixth quarterback.
Okay. Yeah, Bo Nix. Again, I'm not a huge fan. When I watch his tape, I see some like positives, like he's got some great traits, like some great intangibles, right? Something I see in like Gardner Minshew or something I see in like Sam Howell. Like he's got like a gamer mentality, but he can't make like those elite NFL throws. So I think he will get an opportunity to start eventually. But like if I owned him, I'd be looking to sell because I don't think he has lasting power. So yeah, not a huge fan. I know some people are, but I imagine I won't get many shares unless he falls to this position in drafts. And if I do draft him, I'll be drafting him to sell him.
Okay, how about the other Xavier Leggett?
Okay. This is a guy I imagine I will get some shares of because I don't think many people have him as high as I do. He's not an elite route runner. He's not a great route runner by any means, but he can win in different ways with strength, with speed. He's an athletic freak, this guy, right? He's a big boy. I like him. I think he's a good player. So I think he's probably gonna get like round two draft capital. If he gets round two NFL draft capital, I'll be grabbing some shares of him for sure.
All right, and Lad McConkey.
Lad McConkey. Okay, so a lot of people have him a lot higher than this. I think he's getting some good draft buzz of going maybe early round two NFL drafts. When I watch him, like I see a good player, very good player. He kind of does everything well. Like runs good routes, got good hands. You know, he's smart. He's got some savvy to him. Um, but I don't see anything elite. So I see like an upside of like a back end wide receiver two, high end wide receiver three. Uh, so it's not a guy I'm excited to draft, but if he falls to me in like the middle of round two, I'm gonna grab him.
All right, let's
Yeah.
take a look at your final tier. Uh, we've got Blake Corum, Jermaine Burton, Devontae Walker, Jalen Polk, and Jatavarian Sanders. At this point, you're kind of just looking for a home run, right? That you want to really hit something with. Who out of these guys is the most likely, you think, or has the highest ceiling?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. Yeah, it's really tough to pinpoint exactly who could be a home run here. I think at this point, like especially before the NFL draft, you do want to hit a home run here at the back end of round two, right? So, but you can also like just start targeting for need. I think like so if I need a tight end, maybe I'll grab Jatavian Sanders. If I need a running back, I'll take a chance on Blake Corum. Um, but I think the like this entire draft, I think the value is going to be at wide receiver. So if you're just looking for value, then I think I would grab a receiver that I like. And at this point in drafts, I'm more willing to target guys that I have like a personal affinity for. So like I like Jermaine Burton a lot from Alabama, and I think he's a smooth player, and I'm a little bit worried about his draft capital. Like maybe it could be round three, round four, but I think I do want a few shares of him. So I think if I'm in this range, maybe I try to trade back and grab him, or maybe I do if I need a running back, I grab Blake Corum because he could go in late round two, early round three. So yeah. Or if I
Well,
need a tight end, I'll grab Jatavian Sanders, even though I do think he is a bit of a project. I think
yeah.
if you grab Sanders, you're probably going to have to wait a few years. Uh, so just be patient.
All right, there you have it. The top 24 prospects to look at for the upcoming 2024 season. This is Fantasy Football Freaks. He's Vaz. I'm Jason. We're going to be here uploading more and more videos about fantasy football. We've got all sorts of things to talk about this offseason, of course, whether it be dynasty or redraft. So, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends, get involved with our community. We've started a group on Facebook as well. So join us there where we can talk about fantasy football as it's a long off season, but there's certainly a lot to talk about. And we can't wait for you to join our community as well. Any last words, Chris?
Oh, no, I think you covered it all. Thanks a lot, Jason. Thanks for having me.
All right. We look forward to it once again. Thanks for joining us and like the video.
What do you say? What do you say? What do you say? You little brat? You have never thanked me. I'll see you tomorrow. Maybe.